With grace and charm, Susan Day, the iconic Laurie Partridge from the Partridge Family, won millions of hearts. One startling revelation has fans wondering about the dynamics behind the scenes despite the show's enduring popularity and loyal fan following. Susan made headlines when she declined to attend the planned reunion for the venerable series, claiming that she was at odds with one particular co-star. What led to this conflict among the adored cast members? Was it unresolved drama, a personal conflict, or something more serious? Come along as we examine the relationships that influence this iconic TV show and reveal the startling truth behind Susan Day's choice. Shirley and Keith were related. A few members of the cast are real-life relatives. Shirley Jones, the actress who portrays Shirley Partridge, is linked to her on-screen son. David Cassidy, who portrays Jones's son, Keith Partridge, is Jones's stepmother. In 1956, Shirley Jones wed Jack Cassidy, David's father. Before their 1974 divorce, the couple married for about 20 years. The family remained close after the divorce and continued communicating in the following years. Shirley tried to stay involved in David's life despite his difficulties. Still, their relationship grew increasingly distant in the years leading up to his passing. Robbing Them Blind. The Partridge Family was produced and created by Screen Gems, Sony, earning millions of dollars from the popular program. Despite this, given the show's enormous success, the cast received incredibly low pay. David Cassidy, the show's star musician, earned only $600 weekly. His pay was absurd compared to the production's earnings, which were almost 10 times more each week. Thankfully, David could renegotiate the conditions of his original contract after it was revealed that he was underage when he signed it. His weekly income increased to a more manageable level after this. The alternate pilot. They produced multiple program pilots, and the alternate is quite different. To begin with, the Partridges reside in Ohio, not California, in the original pilot. Second, the episode references Mr. Partridge, who isn't addressed in the aired pilot. Much more information is provided about the father, who is allegedly an alcoholic. The family practically pretended that Mr. Partridge didn't exist, and the pilot that finally did air never spoke about him. Shirley Jones. Shirley Jones was born in 1934 in Pennsylvania and began performing early. After declining the role of Carol Brady, the mother of the Brady Bunch, she started playing Shirley Partridge on The Partridge Family in 1970. Until the show's cancellation in 1974, Shirley Jones portrayed the mother of the Partridge Family. Since she was already well known for her part, the actress had trouble finding employment after that. However, Jones quickly returned to the public eye and has since been nominated for numerous accolades and gotten numerous nods for her work. Jones is currently an active member of PETA and primarily acts in theater shows. David Cassidy. Born in 1950 in New York City, David Cassidy is the son of actor Jack Cassidy and Evelyn Ward. He started gaining popularity in the late 1960s after pursuing an acting career in his teens. Cassidy had mostly modest roles in TV shows until landing his big break on The Partridge Family. Thanks to this new opportunity, his career took off, and he eventually achieved great success. Producers said Cassidy's androgynous good looks were why he was cast in the show. He gained much attention and notoriety due to his attractiveness, rapidly making him a teen darling of the 1970s. Cassidy earned a living as a musician and achieved widespread fame in the 1970s and 1980s. Due to his propensity for substance usage and his acute alcoholism in later life, Cassidy distanced himself from his friends and family. He tragically passed away in 2017 at the age of 67 from liver failure. Not all sunshine and rainbows. It wasn't as simple as you might assume for David Cassidy to become famous overnight. It became a significant issue because Cassidy's original contract gave him no control or security over his name or likeness. Businesses could use his face and likeness on anything without requesting his consent or paying him royalties, from lunchboxes to posters. Additionally, Cassidy's fame was quite furious. Despite being relatively new, teen idol culture was already a powerful influence. In other instances, Cassidy returned home to discover followers sleeping in his car, naked ladies in his home, and a crowd of supporters ready to storm his doorstep. The young man found the world to be quite dangerous. Danny Bonaduce. Danny Bonaduce portrayed Danny Partridge, the bassist for the Partridge Family Band and the red-haired middle child. At 11, he made his television debut, and he was honored with a Child Actor Lifetime Achievement Award for his performance. After starting as a child star, Bonaduce hosted his show, The Danny Bonaduce Show, and had several popular radio shows. He briefly worked as a professional wrestler after his radio career. He starred in Hulk Hogan's Celebrity Championship Wrestling, but usually wrestled at charity events. Abuse and neglect behind the scenes. Regretfully, Bonaduce's real life differed from what he depicted on television. His real life was anything but the naive and loving life he portrayed on TV. Danny's real-life family abused him emotionally and physically, and he frequently stayed with cast members to avoid returning home. During his time on the program, Bonaduce shared a home with Dave Madden, who played the band manager, and co-star Shirley Jones, who was his on-screen mother. According to Bonaduce, he owes a great deal to these two individuals who supported him throughout difficult times. Regarding Jones, he remarked, "Shirley Jones could not have been kinder to me." Brian Forster. On the show, Brian Forster portrayed Chris Partridge. Jeremy Gelbwax played the part at first, but in 1971, someone else took it. Forster was meant for greatness and comes from an extended family of wealthy people. Forster is the step-grandson of another well-known British actor, Alan Napier, and the son of British movie legend Peter Forster. Additionally, he is the renowned author Charles Dickens' great-great-great-grandson. After his Partridge Family part ended his on-screen career, he pursued a career as a stunt car driver and a professional racing driver in Northern California. Switching Chris Partridge. Jeremy Gelbwax was forced into acting by his parents and didn't get along with his producers or co-stars. For Jeremy's and their benefit, the producers chose to replace him after a year. And you know what? Nobody took notice. The show went on as usual, and the studio received no letters or complaints about the switch. Brian Forster played Chris without anyone noticing for the latter 3 years of the show's run. Forster and Gelbwax seemed to share their thoughts on the show and their experiences playing Chris Partridge in the Partridge Family Reunion TV special. Jealousy and fame. The marriage of Shirley Jones and Jack Cassidy, which lasted from 1956 to 1974, ended for an unexpected reason. After she started working with the Partridge Family and became successful in her career, her husband became envious and their relationship soured. He turned to adultery as a result of his alcoholism and jealousy. Years after his success, Jones said, "His overriding sense of inferiority in the face of my success drove him into the arms of other women even more often than before." David Cassidy later revealed that his father had battled alcoholism and anger management, which led to his unpredictable behavior and the breakup. Suzanne Crowe. Tracy Partridge, the youngest member of the Partridge family, played the tambourine in the family band and was portrayed by Susan Crowe. It was Crowe's first acting role at the age of 9. After the show ended, she played a few supporting parts before deciding to leave the limelight and lead a regular life. As an adult, Crowe spent several years running and owning a bookshop. She lived in Nevada with her 2 daughters after getting married. In 2015, Crowe unexpectedly passed away from a genetic cardiac condition. Danny Bonaduce paid respect to her passing, saying, "Everyone thought I'd be the first Partridge to go. Sadly, it was little Tracy. Suzanne was a wonderful lady and a good mom. She will be missed." Her co-stars mourned her passing. Dave Madden. Born in Canada in 1931, Dave Madden was brought up in Indiana by his aunt and uncle. Despite his early enlistment in the U.S. Air Force, he always loved comedy and acting. Following his time in the Air Force, he worked on several comedic programs, including appearances on programs like Camp Run-Amok and The Ed Sullivan Show. After that, he became even more successful as the manager and agent of the Partridge Family Band, Reuben Kincaid. Madden had several little TV parts after the show ended. He pursued photography as a hobby throughout his life since it piqued his curiosity. At the age of 82, Dave Madden passed away under hospice care in 2014. Who were the real-life Partridges? Did you know that the Cowsills, a family band, were the real-life subject of the Partridge Family? Their mother served as the group's leader, and the family included 6 sons and 1 daughter. The Rain and The Park and Other Things is one of the band's modest singles from the 1960s. The show was initially written to have the genuine Cowsill family play the Partridges, as desired by the Sony producers. The Cowsills, however, were not pleased when the producers eventually decided during discussions that Shirley Jones should take the mother's place. The Cowsill family rejected the chance because it was all or nothing. Partridge, not Brady. Shirley Jones eventually accepted the role of Shirley Partridge for 2 reasons. First, because she, Partridge, was destined to become the first working mother on TV, and I loved the script. Second, because working on the series would let me be an almost full-time mom and raise my kids. Initially, Shirley Jones was set to play the character of Carol on The Brady Bunch. Still, she declined the role, stating, "While the idea of playing the mother in The Brady Bunch was initially attractive to me, I turned it down because I didn't want to be the mother taking the roast out of the oven and not doing much else." The Cassidy and Day romance. Throughout the series, Susan Day, who played Laurie, the second oldest child, harbored a deep affection for her co-star, David Cassidy. Later, Cassidy said that he was aware of Day's long-standing crush on him, but chose to wait until the show's conclusion in 1974 to take action. The two started dating after the show ended, but sadly, their relationship was short-lived. Their romance was described in length in Cassidy's autobiography, released years later. Susan was not pleased, and he may have revealed more information about their connection than was suitable. Their friendship ended with the book's publication, and the two never communicated again. Ricky Stevens. The show's creators introduced the character of Ricky Stevens after the show's ratings began to decline. It was thought that Ricky's cuteness at age 4 would increase the show's ratings in the 4th season. To capitalize on the Jackson 5's popularity at the time, the producers originally intended to include a young African-American youngster in the performance, but in the end, they changed their minds and chose to bring a young Caucasian child instead. Tragedy in London. David Cassidy's musical career was primarily attributed to the Partridge Family, and his notoriety skyrocketed after the show's conclusion. A terrible catastrophe happened in 1974 while they were performing at London's White City Stadium. Thousands of people rushed the stage, stomping on those closest to the stage, enthralled by Cassidy and his stunning beauty. 30 of the more than 800 persons hurt in the stampede needed to be sent to the hospital. Bernadette Whelan, a 14-year-old girl, was one of the 30 hospitalized, and she never fully recovered. Due to the stress of the situation, Whelan, who had a chronic heart disease, experienced a cardiac arrest and died 4 days later in the hospital. When questioned later about the young girl's passing, Cassidy said it would follow him to the end of his days. Troublemaker Bonaduce. Due to his difficult upbringing, Danny Bonaduce was a real troublemaker, even as a young child. Danny was a wild child who came from an unhappy home. At 11, he started smoking. Like many child stars, his family life was negatively impacted by the spotlight he grew up in, according to Shirley Jones, his on-screen mother and later real-world guardian. His unpredictable and even chaotic conduct, which persisted into adulthood, was undoubtedly exacerbated by growing up in an abusive household. Numerous other shows use the Partridges' home. If you think the Partridge Family home looks familiar, don't worry. It was used multiple times. In Bewitched, Dennis the Menace, I Dream of Jeannie, and The Donna Reed Show, the house was also used as the residence of Stephen's snooping neighbors. Many fans observed the similarities between these well-known concerts from the 1960s and 1970s, but no one was concerned. Reese Witherspoon starred in the Pleasantville movie, which also used the set. Simone's disappearance. The family had a dog named Simone during the show's first season, as many viewers may recall. The dog unexpectedly vanished from the show between the first and second seasons, and it has never been seen or discussed since. Hopefully, the character was omitted since the dog was merely viewed as an extra expense and unnecessary to the plot. However, the show didn't want to get negative publicity by addressing the possibility that the dog didn't survive to see the second season. We hope it was the first choice, but this one is up for interpretation. Susan Day says she won't go to reunions. In the years since the show's conclusion, Susan Day has been unable to attend cast reunions due to the romantic conflict between her and David Cassidy. Shirley Jones commented on the situation. She and David had grown apart, and nowadays they are completely out of touch, which hurts David tremendously. I was also hurt that out of everyone on the show, only Susan consistently refuses to participate in TV reunions of the Partridge Family. It's unclear if the two could get back together before Cassidy passed away in 2017, but we think it's doubtful. What a shame for the once lovers. The animated Partridge Family. The success of the Partridge Family led to the creation of an animated spin-off, Partridge Family 2200 AD. Shirley Jones and David Cassidy declined to be related to the show, and Danny Bonaduce and Susan Day provided sparse voice acting. The show was eventually canceled after a brief run, and like most spin-offs, it did not receive very high ratings. Sometimes it's better to let the show die in peace. Guest stars galore. Throughout its 4 seasons, the show featured several well-known guest stars, including Farrah Fawcett, Johnny Cash, who appeared in the pilot episode, Jodie Foster, Jacqueline Smith, Cheryl Ladd, and Mark Hamill. The list is endless, and considering that the show only ran for 4 years, this is a remarkable number of guests. The family bus's final resting place. It's no secret that the Partridge Family bus was one of the show's most recognizable symbols. Viewers were instantly thrilled when they saw the 1957 Chevrolet 6800 Superior zooming on their TV screens. In the Partridge Family pilot episode, the family finds the bus at a car dealership and takes it home to give it the famous paint job we all know and love. However, behind the scenes, the Screen Gems TV studio bought the bus for $500 from the Orange County School District. The show's colorful bus was parked behind a taco shop on Martin Luther King Boulevard after the show ended, presumably to increase the taco establishment's visibility. After years of neglect and disuse, the bus was officially put out of commission and taken to a dump yard, which was an odd occurrence. One would think that the iconic bus would have been placed in a museum or something. Shirley was the only one expected to sing. At the show's beginning, Shirley Jones was the only cast member supposed to sing, but after hearing David Cassidy's demo, they decided he would be a great addition to the tracks. His fantastic voice allowed him to sing with his stepmother on the show, and maybe this was the beginning of his musical career. After the show ended, Cassidy's singing career took off, and we are grateful to the producers of the Partridge Family. Otherwise, we might never have heard his lovely voice. Replacing Keith Partridge. The producers had a problem as the 4th season of the show was coming to an end. David Cassidy wanted to leave the show to focus on his music, and since the show was so successful, they tried to renew it for a 5th season, so they needed a replacement for the show's heartthrob, David. They chose to replace him with another talented musician, Rick Springfield. But things didn't quite work out that way, and the show wasn't renewed for the 5th season because no one could replace the great David Cassidy. Danny Bonaduce couldn't learn his lines. The young Danny Bonaduce struggled to learn his lines because he had dyslexia, but he also had a photographic memory, which helped him remember his lines. Little Danny had no trouble remembering what he had to say, but his dyslexia meant he frequently remembered the wrong line. He often got into trouble with the other cast members because he corrected them on their lines. David Cassidy's voice. In reality, David Cassidy's voice is very different from what we hear on the show because the singing portions are all pre-recorded in a recording studio where the producers changed the pitch of Cassidy's voice to make it more appealing. Although Cassidy's talent was undeniable, at the time, having a higher-pitched voice was more fashionable, so they changed it to suit the times. Shirley Jones' struggle with fame. According to Shirley Jones, fame was not all that it seemed. She said, "The public continued to find it hard to separate the Partridge Family from the real-life actors playing them, which could sometimes cause serious problems in our lives." Her fame led to the dissolution of her 20-year marriage. Still, it also made it difficult for her to lead an everyday life, because the music she wrote for the show was frequently on the charts in real life, making it difficult for the public to distinguish between reality and fiction. Additionally, The public believed that Jones was David Cassidy's real-life mother, which led to numerous issues between Jones and his real-life mother, Evelyn Ward. The struggles of David Cassidy. Many people who become famous young have a difficult time as adults. David Cassidy had many problems with the law and his personal life. In addition to his success, Cassidy had a lot of setbacks. He filed for bankruptcy, had 3 DUIs, went through 3 divorces, and owed creditors a staggering $400,000. He also battled severe alcoholism from a young age. He entered treatment for his alcoholism in 2012, but it seems that the damage had already been done, as he died from his addiction, having developed liver and kidney failure as a result. The Partridges sold more than the Beatles. As previously stated, the music composed for the show was extremely popular, even more so than anyone had expected. Their song, I Think I Love You, which was included on the 1970 album, The Partridge Family Album, shot to the top of the American and international charts very quickly. In November 1970, it peaked at number 1 on the Billboard charts. It outsold the Beatles' single Let It Be, demonstrating the Partridge Family's immense popularity and surpassing one of the most iconic bands ever. Shirley Jones wasn't happy with her co-stars singing. The voices of Susan Day, Suzanne Crowe, Jeremy Gelbwax, Brian Forster, and Danny Bonaduce were all deemed unsatisfactory by Shirley Jones, who remained vocal about her displeasure with the caliber of her co-stars' singing. Jones was likely correct in her assessment that only one of her co-stars was gifted enough to sing on the show, and that was her stepson, David Cassidy. The kids couldn't play. In addition to the actors' personal lives, we discussed how the public was frequently perplexed by the show's fictional aspects and mistakenly believed they were real. Fans thought that the Partridge Family could play all the instruments they were shown playing on the show, not realizing it was all a lie. Only one actor on the show could play an instrument, David Cassidy. Susan Day. Susan Day gained a great deal of Hollywood fame after the Partridge Family. She starred in several TV series, including L.A. Law, for which she was nominated for multiple Emmys and Golden Globes for her portrayal of Grace Van Owen. She also won the Best Television Actress Award in 1988. Following L.A. Law, Day starred in TV series and movies like Echo Park, Bed of Lies, Hawaii Five-0, and Third Watch. However, her fame ended in 2004, and she hasn't acted since. Susan Day's body image issues. Before the Partridge Family, Susan Day earned a living as a model, but failed until her acting career took off. Day's rapid rise to fame and the spotlight in Hollywood was difficult for her. She struggled with her body image and started to restrict her food intake, which led to her rapidly becoming dangerously underweight, reaching a dangerous low of 92 pounds. At first, Susan didn't notice that she had a problem with her weight until Danny Bonaduce saw her in a bathing suit and remarked on her almost skeletal appearance. A sad end. Even though the show ran for many years, there was still some animosity between some cast members. David Cassidy was close to Danny Bonaduce and remained friends with most of the cast members until his death, but not all of his co-stars were in the same situation. Susan Day refused to go to any reunions. She disassociated herself from the show after it ended, which the late Cassidy said was probably because he mentioned in his autobiography that he and Day had spent a night or two together when they were younger. It is unclear if Day will go to any reunions now that Cassidy is gone.
If you've watched the video till here, that means you've enjoyed the video. Subscribe. Don't forget to turn on the notifications bell icon